All right, we're live. Good evening. Good evening. You're watching. What's the evening show on NBC? You're watching the NBC Evening News.
Oh,
I'm Brian Williams. This is Brian Williams, and you're watching NBC Evening News. Anyway, sorry. I'm also in a silly mood, it seems. Anyway, good evening, Carlos. Thank you for joining us today, this evening. It's 10 p.m. here in Atlanta, 7 p.m. there in Los Angeles. And to all of our viewers, hello, welcome to the show. You're watching Stand Up Fight Back, where we discuss strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. I'm one of your co hosts. I'm Margot Pius. As always, I am a scientist, engineer, and occasional journalist. And over here on this side is the wonderful, stupendous, brilliant, extraordinarily kind human being, Carlos Marroquin, a wonderful grassroots organizer. And we are talking today about an upcoming event. It's called the People Summit. It's going to be in Los Angeles, and it's going to be running in parallel to another summit that the United States State Department is putting on, which is the Summit of the Americas. And this summit is a really, you know, various delegations from various parts of North America and South America come together and discuss whatever they deem to be important issues uh, that affect this continent. So, Carlos, before we get
yeah.
started, is there
Well,
anything else we need to talk about before we get
first,
into this whole summit stuff?
first of all, I'd like to greet everybody and say good evening, to wherever you may be watching us from. I am here in Hollywood today. I know that I've been like moving around throughout the nation, but I'm here in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, actually. It is a beautiful, beautiful Sunday evening here in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. The sun was out all day today. I saw a lot of people out there on the streets, people, just going out and about their lives and trying to find a little enjoyment. They actually went to Griffith Park and saw a lot of people out there. So it's always good to see people, enjoying life, having a moment with their
Mm.
family. Um, got to go a little bit to the mall, one of our local malls, and people are out about, buying things and shopping and what have you. It does my heart good to see people, moving on and doing things, especially after the pandemic, Margaret. People had a hard time, and so it's always fun to see people enjoying themselves. I actually went to the Dodger Stadium and
Oh, that's nice.
Dodger Stadium, and but I had to leave because I had a meeting. But I had a moment at the Dodger Stadium, so I enjoyed myself. Had my Dodger dog, and of course enjoyed the company of my friend for a minute, and then we had to run. But here we are, Sunday evening. Thank you, Margaret, for being with us. I know it's 10 o'clock at nighttime over there in Atlanta, and it's a challenge sometimes. Your sacrifices are well taken. Yeah, I really appreciate for that because it is really important that these discussions that um, we have, of course, you announced that there will be a People Summit for democracy here in Los Angeles, and is running a parallel with uh, the Summit of the Americas, where you have, you know, world leaders actually coming into Los Angeles. And I understand that President Biden would also be um, in the states and here in the city. Uh, Most likely, he will be addressing uh, and bringing issues that they think are relevant. But the interesting thing about the People's Summit is that we counter pretty much what the governments do say, because they tend to talk over people's heads. Not, let's say, for example, when they talk about climate change, is different to the reality that people are living, and what scientists are actually saying. They kind of water down everything. So we're planning to be actually, I'm going to be um, joining a panelist. I've been invited to be one of the speakers, so I'm very excited about that. And Margaret, maybe you could read a little bit about that panel that we're going to be having on the 8th, which is the profit before, excuse me, people before.
People,
Yeah.
people over profit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a really, really awesome panel. I have to say, it's going to be Dr. Anna Malino, Dr. Brita Amani, Bill McKibben, Carlos Marroquin, Taineta Hill Muhammad, and Dr. Tanya Crombet Ramos. And I mean, wow, star-studded, star-studded lineup. I believe Dr. Tanya Ramos is from Cuba. She's a Cuba medical doctor. Bill McKibben, very well known environmentalist, head of the 350.org. Of course, Carlos, you do amazing work in terms of food security, or fighting poverty. And yeah, the panel, it's going to be in the main hall on June 8th from 3:30 to 5 p.m. So that's a Wednesday this coming week. The panel description says the COVID-19 pandemic has claimed almost 1 million lives in the United States and made clear that the richest country in the world continues to value economic profit over the well-being of humanity. This session will uplift examples of social solidarity and struggles that fight against the privatization of healthcare and for a world in which health is prioritized for all.
Right.
You know, Carlos, I think it's really great that you're having this discussion, because uh, our government has pretty much moved on from COVID, and every now and then you hear something about like government is not sure it has enough money to prepare for the winter, where they expect there will probably be another surge in cases, because it's the winter time. Of course, people are more indoors, they're closer together, spreading viruses in general is a lot easier in the winter time. And every now and then I hear something about there's lack of funding to prepare for the winter. So it's so important that we still have these discussions, because COVID really has not gone away. In fact, in Los Angeles, case numbers are up. They're still up. Where the LA County, I think, is in some, what is like the medium risk zone, I think, because cases are up. So it's there. I think the government at all levels have just pretty much decided we're just going to live with this, and who cares how that affects our healthcare workers, and who cares how it affects the most vulnerable people in this country, because they are still at risk. People with conditions that predispose them to worse cases of COVID, they're still at risk. People who are immunocompromised, they're still at risk. And the vaccines, they're not perfect and they don't last forever. So yeah, I think this is a really great discussion, and I'm glad that actually that Bill McKibben will be on this, because he brings in a climate perspective, the climate change and ecological crisis perspective, which I think ties all of this together, because pandemics and other viruses, right? They're more likely, they're at higher risk of happening because of climate change and the displacement of animals and humans, right? So we end up moving and migrating, and we end up being closer together and coexisting with other animals that we didn't used to, and so that means that we're exposing ourselves to new viruses, new diseases that we've never experienced before. So that is going to be, uh, I mean, that is something that we have to be worried about going forward as climate change worsens. So yeah, Carlos, tell us more about the summit, about the panel. I mean, what inspired this? Why do it in parallel to this Summit of the Americas?
Well, my understanding is because pretty much our world leaders are so out of touch with the reality that's happening on the ground. You know, when we look, for example, when we look at food insecurity, you know, they're, you know, the system that they created is not working for most of the people. You know, there are countries, entire countries that are food deserts. Entire countries are food deserts. You know, where there is, you know, literally, you know, hundreds of thousands of people, you know, trying to move, trying to get out of those areas because the suffering is tremendous. You know, people, you know, the food situation is going to get worse, and which means that, um, you know, there's going to be more migration. There's going to be more, you know, world hunger, illnesses, etc. So we want to be able to talk about a lot of these things, and I don't want to like really give a lot of information right now because then I ain't gonna have nothing else to say for uh, at the panel. But you don't want to miss it. It's going to be very, very, very informative. You know, I am just so honored to be able to join this panel to discuss a lot of these things. Let's got to remember this, that all the issues that affect us are really connected. They're really, really connected, and so it's going to be really important for us to continue to have more information, especially as new challenges come about in our world. And it's really difficult. The challenges with climate change, for example, uh, we see that now we have stepped into a different level of a crisis. So we need to also prepare ourselves, and in different forms, in different ways, at different levels. Not only, you know, have a plan for our families, but have a plan for for our community, but also to be able to look forward and look ahead as the things that are coming, so that we can understand what we need to do as a community. So definitely the government doesn't have us in mind. They don't have a plan for it. There are no safety nets, you know,
Yeah.
that have been prepared for us. We always seem to be always reacting after the fact. You know, we saw that with the pandemic, we saw that with COVID-19, that it was after the fact. And even after the fact, you know, we had Trump that didn't know what the hell he was doing. And that's obvious because of the fact that our government doesn't prepare themselves for these things. They say they do. They're supposed to. They spend a lot of money to be able to create safety nets. At least we thought we had those safety nets, but lo and behold, there are no safety nets for the people. So things would only get worse, progressively worse. You know, especially with new pandemics that may rise up. They show us exactly what they're about, and that we are last in their minds. So we need to think for ourselves. We need to prepare for ourselves. We need to have a plan. We need to organize. And we keep saying that over and over. The challenges that are coming before us, we can meet them head on in a smart way, in an organized way, by coming together, by organizing with our communities, with our people, and we can actually respond to any need that may rise up. This is why during the pandemic, for example, mutual aid was so successful, because that was the response of the people, not the government, the people responding to the needs of the communities. And so, Margaret, we are learning as we go. But what we are trying to do, and this is what I always tell people, we always need to think ahead of the game. So that way we are not going to be cut ourselves flat footed. So we're thinking ahead of the game. So we know, we understand that climate change will bring a lot of different crises. And so the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what are we doing about it? How are we preparing ourselves? How are we preparing or organizing our communities? Are we educating them? There's things like that that we can do. Educate the public. Start creating, more mutual aids. Find out where the resources are. Start. We need to be talking to people. We need to know who's who when it comes to the movement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I was just looking at the the Summit of the Americas and who's invited, and I noticed that, for example, at the People's Summit, there's actually a panel all about Cuba and the Cuban blockade, and there's going to be some young voices speaking as part of this panel about how detrimental this blockade actually is. And then I looked over at the Summit of the Americas, and actually Cuba is not invited to the Summit of the Americas, which is really, really backward. And I think that the fact that the Biden administration has not reversed any of the policy reversals that Trump instituted after Obama opened up diplomatic relations and made it easier for travel and sharing of ideas and knowledge and people between the two countries. Trump then reversed that for whatever stupid isolationist reason he had. And Biden has not reversed that policy. And I don't understand the logic behind that. It was a good policy decision. And Cuba, there's no reason anymore to have a blockade against this country, because these blockades, these sanctions, they only hurt the people there. And those people, they want to have access to all of the stuff that the Western world has. And I think that it's really uh, contradictory, right? If you want to export, and now I'm not saying this as if like I'm pro-capitalist, because I'm pretty much an anti-capitalist, but I'm saying if you really want to export capitalism, the best way to do it is to let your products, your shiniest products, go into those countries like Levi's, Coca-Cola, these name brands that are sparkly and represent that embody capitalism. That is the way that you basically import capitalism. I think, to me, just looking at the way what happened between East Germany versus West Germany, they had everything, that they had the fundamentals. They Nobody was poor, everybody could eat, women had great health care, etc. They always had a job. Of course, they had the Stasi, which is a problem. But what they really wanted, they wanted the nice things. They wanted the Levi jeans. They wanted the Coca-Cola. They wanted the spectacle of the rock stars in Germany that they saw on the TV, that they were technically not supposed to be watching those channels, but they were, some of them who could still get it because they were close to the border with West Germany, and that was one of the things that really drew people out of Eastern Germany back into Western Germany, was that they really wanted to be part of that. And if you want Cuba to not be communist, then lift the blockade. Let the sharing of ideas, the sharing of products happen because people there want those things too. They ask for it. They do. And they have but they have great healthcare as well. So, there's still something that is still left to be desired. Like, people still want nice things, I think. So I mean, I just say that because I think that it's a really backward perspective. If you are pro-capitalist and you really want to destroy communism, I think the best way to do it is just to import capitalism through capitalist products. And I don't know why why they don't do that, but but instead they do this blockade and they're just going to starve people out of communism. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's ridiculous, right? So, Marco Rubio, I don't know what your problem is, but I think that it's so backward. But look, the point is that this is the Joe Biden administration. Democrats are in power, allegedly, and they are not inviting Cuba to this Summit of the Americas. And it's a loss to the U.S., to be honest.
They're also not inviting Venezuela.
Oh, right, and Nicaragua.
Right. I mean, it goes back to the same thing: is that we're not uniting. We are not trying to seek, democracy to these countries by us closing the doors on them. It tells a lot about us, not them. A lot about us. What are we afraid of? Are we that afraid? Do we really buy into the Republican line of thinking that every social program and stuff is communist? That's the kind of mentality. That's the fear that they install in people, and it's not only incorrect, it is wrong, because again, a government should be there for the people. It's supposed to be by the people. It's supposed to be for the people. Government should exist to pretty much look out for the people, to take care of, making sure that they are working services, so that people can move to and fro locations, that we have systems that are in place that are working for everyone, not just the rich. But see, that's exactly. So we complain about Cuba, we complain about Venezuela, we complain about those countries, and we are just probably even worse because we're not even taking care of them. I know, like Cuba and all those places, you can have healthcare for free. They have access. We are a rich world, a rich country here, and we cut the access away from the people.
Yeah. Yeah, we exchanged guaranteed healthcare for for lots of shiny products, basically. I mean, I think you can have both. You can have nice things and you can have healthcare. I mean, there's lots of successful social democracies out there that have shown just as much as possible. And so this either or mentality in the United States is just so backward. I mean, it's backward. And the thing is it's 2022. Why are we still acting like there's this war between capitalists and communists, right? There isn't. There really isn't. What's Cuba? It's a little island. There's nothing. There's the threat was that this was really the Soviet Union during that time. Well, the Soviet Union collapsed in the 1980s, and there's no threat there. Now it's Russia, whatever, but it's not the same dynamic anymore. So it's just very strange how these policies continue from one administration to another. And I have to give Obama credit for changing that, for trying to change that policy and at least being forward thinking in that regard, that he actually decided that it would be better if we had a diplomatic relationship with Cuba. But he's the only president we've had that actually has done that. Biden, again, he is not going to be talking with anybody from Cuba at this summit, or Venezuela, or Nicaragua, which I think is a mistake because, yeah, there are definitely problems in Venezuela, but ignoring Venezuela instead of engaging with them diplomatically, it doesn't help the people in Venezuela. It doesn't. It doesn't. Mm, Um,
It not only doesn't help the people in Venezuela, but it shows how weak we are, how insecure we are. You know, we're supposed to be a country of strength, of courage, of democracy, of freedom, of we value, quote unquote, we value human life, and we do the opposite. We pretty much are doing the opposite. We're scared of our own shadow, and rightfully so, because the enemy really is from within. In the United States, the enemy is within. We saw the rise of on January 6th of insurrectionists that want to overthrow the government, really, you know, and we spend billions and billions of dollars on security when our, the people within, are the ones that can actually destroy America. They're seeing, people gunning down citizens left and right. Where is our enemy? Is within. We see corrupt politicians at every level of government siding with greed and corruption. The enemy is within. When we see, countless of people sleeping on the streets, the enemy is within. Because we have resources, we have enough resources available to be. We even have, empty how empty units, enough to be able to house every single person living on the street, but the enemy is within. So never mind Cuba, never mind Venezuela. We got problems in the inside here, and it's our own political parties.
Yeah, well, I think the opposition to Venezuela is not really based on human rights, in my opinion. I think it is based more on the fact that Venezuela is sitting on a lot of oil. And even though we are facing an existential crisis due to climate change because of the burning of oil, we still are trying to privatize their oil on behalf of American fossil fuel corporations. So I really think that is the real problem. It is not that there are human rights violations. It's not that there's hyperinflation there. It's not that there is, that there's a lot of problems, because all of those are true. But from the U.S. interest, it's really, I believe, about energy. So, and corporate access to that energy. That's the neoliberal policy. That's the imperialist policy that we have in the United States. So no Venezuela, no Cuba, and no Nicaragua at this summit.
Yeah. So again, the summit will be held here in Los Angeles on June the 8th through the 10th, and it's going to be over at Los Angeles Trade Tech.
LA Trade Tech.
LA Trade Tech, the school right there on, I believe it's in Washington, close to, let me see, Figueroa.
But there's the blue line. I think, stops right near Trade Tech too.
Exactly. So we'll post the link, Margaret. If we can post the link of the
Yeah, I already did.
so you could take a look at it, and you could also see the different panelists that are going to be that they will be having through those 2 days. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be really good, and I'm just honored to be a part of that. Where again, I will be speaking on June the 8th um, at over at Trade Tech. So very excited about that for that opportunity, and we have a lot to say. We have a lot to share, and my eyes are wide open. My eyes are wide open. We're paying attention at the issues that are affecting the people. So we have a lot to say. It's gonna be good. Don't miss it. Join us and join the other panels that also that will be hosting. And there's a lot of good stuff that that they're going to be having. For example, there's going to be youth organizing and strategies, justice for TPS community, um, the struggle for democracy, and so on. There's just so many. There's also going to be a panel on solidarity beyond borders, building a people's internationalism. There's also going to be a panel on labor, so there's going to be discussion on labor. Also, there's going to be a panel um, on the consequences of U.S. interventions in the Americas. So all those things are really, really good. There's going to be a panel on the police and prison abolition and why there is this movement of defunding the police. So it's really educational, and I think that is something that needs to be that we need to highlight.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the People's Summit, this isn't the first time the People's Summit has happened, right? I think, did this People's Summit first start in 2016 after Bernie's first run? Is that when the People's Summit first started?
Yeah, they have had several panels, but because of again COVID, uh, they haven't been able to have it. But this is, again, this is in LA, and he's running right next to the Summit of the Americas. So very, very, very excited about that. Excuse me. But Margaret, something else is happening, and of course we talked about it in our past discussion last week. But guns in America, and since that mass killing out there in Texas, there being a numerous amount of again g- guns situations where people getting killed left and right. Oklahoma, we had another recent one in North Carolina. uh, it's just happening everywhere, and so right now there's a lot of discussion on gun control. We'll see where they go with that, but obviously the gun industry is very upset because this is their bottom line, and they want to keep it the way it is. So they are throwing everything that they can to spin this in different ways so that they can keep the status quo, pretty much.
Yeah.
Another thing that is developing, of course, is January 6th. The Again, the people that have been working on getting all that information, what really happened on January 6th. My understanding is on Thursday, they're going to begin a public hearings on this. So already the PR machine is out. Trump is mobilizing his people to try to counter everything that is going to be said about him. So pretty much it's going to be a circus. Uh, we know what really happened out there. We know what Trump is all about. We know who's behind Trump, and we also know that there were people that got killed and harmed by the actions that happened on January 6th. So there's not much we can say about this right now, but for the next few days, weeks, I don't know how long it's going to take for them to bring out all their findings. It's going to be really interesting the way this is going to develop and how Trump is going to respond to this. And I can tell you right now already, he's going to say that there's no authority for this to happen, that it's a witch hunt, all those same talking points that he uses over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, he's entertaining. Gotta give him that. Yeah, this will be interesting. The January 6th stuff, and actually, I wanted to share something related to January 6th. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who recently made some very interesting comments. I don't know if you've seen this, Carlos, but it's quite a doozy. So let me know if you can't. Can you?
If Christian
hear the audio?
nationalism is something to be scared of, they're lying to you. And they're lying to you on purpose, because that is exactly the temperature change that is happening in America today, and they can't control it. They can't control it, and that's what terrifies them the most. You see, if we're going to label it Christian nationalism, this movement will actually be the movement that stops the school shootings. This will be the movement that stops the crime in our streets. This will be the movement that stops the sexual immorality and teaches children and brings them up in traditional families and loving homes. This will be the movement that protects kids' innocence and nurtures them into responsible adults that grow up to be successful moms and dads wanting to pursue a family of their own. This will be the movement that finally does something about our debt, because it's something that all of us should be ashamed of. It should have never happened. This will be the movement that cares about broken and lost communities that are always forgotten about. Christians should never forget about those people, and we don't. So while the media is going to lie about you and label Christian nationalism, and they're probably going to call it domestic terrorism, I'm going to tell you right now, they're the liars. And if anybody's a domestic terrorist, it's the radical left. They are the domestic terrorist. We could even say the Democrats are the domestic terrorists, because they funded them and they burned down our city streets and rioted in 2020. So if we're going to put labels on people, we should put labels where they appropriately belong, not on Christians and not on people who love their country and want to take care of it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot I can say about this woman.
Yeah.
And she's also a creation of the media. They have given her so much airtime, Margaret. What a huge mistake! It's like, since when this woman becomes so important that everything that she says has to be, air out on national media? They given her the platform. You know what I mean? And that's why she's so psycho. And that's why she actually won, because a lot of people listen to her, because, again, the media, created this platform for her, just like they did Trump.
Well, I mean, that's why I think that's why they give her a platform, because they needed a new Trump. They needed a new Donald Trump, and she fits the bill. She's crazy. She's cuckoo. I don't even know why she's still in Congress.
Right. It's the things that she says that brings the ratings. And as long as she keeps saying all this crazy stuff, then pretty much, she's bringing ratings to the media. That means money. So that's what we have, folks. We're going to be cutting this broadcast a little bit short tonight. We wanted to come into you today to let you know some of the things that are happening, some things that are coming up in the next few days. So we have the People's Summit for Democracy here in Los Angeles. We have the ongoing circus with gun control, and see, God only knows where we're going to end up with this. And most likely it's going to be, watered down as always. And then we have, of course, the findings of the January 6th investigation. So those are three things that we can look up to. Besides everything else that the world is falling apart because lack of action by the government. No?
Yeah, well, that's something to look forward to for the rest of this decade. Is apparently a lack of action, and therefore lots of crises. So, yeah, that's fun. Well, yeah, Carlos, I agree. Let's wrap it up. I have a few things to do before I go to bed, so I appreciate the extra 20 minutes to do that. But of course, we'll be back next week. And Carlos, we really look forward to hearing an update from how the summit went this coming week. Really excited to hear more about that. And if you can bring anybody from the summit on who would like to chat with us about it, that would be cool too. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Okay.
Yep.
So, all right. Any last words, final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, that was it. But look, I did talk to my friend Richard Castaldo. He is a Columbine survivor. He's in a wheelchair since Columbine.
Yeah.
And I had asked him if there's anything that he actually wanted to say to the media, so I can actually connect it to some of the news outlets that I usually are able to connect people with for stories. But I was not surprised at what he told me, and he was pretty much saying, I got nothing to say because they're not going to do anything. So, again, our thoughts are with our friend, Richard Castaldo. He lives right here in Los Angeles. So, again, let's see and wait on what happens. There's elections coming up here starting Tuesday, folks. Got to get out there and vote. Do not vote for Caruso, the billionaire. Oh my God! Good.
Yeah, don't vote for that guy.
Vote for his trap. I mean, he sounds like he is Jesus Christ. Millions and millions of dollars that he's pushing through the media, buying airtime. I mean, as soon as I turn on the TV, as soon as I turn on the radio, as soon as I go on social media, he's flooding everything with again his paid campaign advertisement. That guy is pretty much, he's the last person we should vote for. Unfortunately, Democrats, are not too strong in the other side. The other people are running, but for crying out loud, we cannot have a billionaire running Los Angeles. Haven't we learned anything, people? Don't fall for them.
I hope so. I hope we have, because that sounds terrible.
I know. He's telling us how much he cares for Los Angeles, how much he loves Los Angeles, but here's the reason why our rents went up and up and up and up. He's Mr. Corruption. I keep saying that. His commercials, all his political ads saying that he's going to end corruption. He is the corruption.
Yeah. Good luck.
Hey, let's leave a good note tonight. Margaret was tonight.
Thank you. It's great to see you today, Carlos. Thank you to all of our audience for joining us. As always, you've been watching Stand Up Fight Back, where we discuss strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. I've been your co-host for this evening, Margot Pius, and Carlos Marroquin over here. You're also a co-host this evening, and as always, we are here at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time every Sunday evening. We simulcast on Facebook and YouTube, so please hit that like button, the subscribe button, the follow button, the share button, especially. Share us with all of your friends, your neighbors, your best friend from high school, and let them know that we're here and we are going to be back next Sunday. So please tune in then. We'll see you then. Have a great week and don't vote for Caruso. Bye, everybody. Take care.